Imagine having to choose from getting a monthly income for the rest of your life or choosing a big fat check. Which one would you choose? And would you be 100% confident in your choice if you couldn't take it back, if that decision was irreversible? Well, don't worry, you don't have to answer this question alone because I got your back. We're gonna find out what this question is and the answer and a whole lot more. Let's go. What's going on, GFC fam and Wealth Hacker Nation? It is time to make your life more. It's your boy Jeff with another podcast, another YouTube video for those checking it out here on the YouTube channel. And today I'm doing something that I just love doing. I'm answering, you guessed it, one of your questions. Now, if you are interested in submitting a question to be answered here on the GFC podcast or YouTube channel, all you gotta do, keep it very simple. You can go to goodfinancialsense.com/ask, and there you will see a nice contact form that you can fill out. Doesn't take you but a hot minute. Type in your question there, leave your name. That way I can mention you on a future podcast and you can get your question answered. This is really, I love doing this. It's fun for me, especially the ones that are just really easy to answer based off of my expertise because I've done this before and I just enjoy doing it. Once again, that is goodfinancialsense.com/ask, and you can ask away. So let's go ahead and get to today's question. And this is the question, and it has to do about pensions and pension rollovers. So the question goes, hello, Jeff. Hello, reader. I have worked with my company for over 27 years this spring. Congratulations. That's awesome. I am one of the lucky ones that has been given a very generous pension and a 401k plan. Okay, so that is not, I won't say that is not uncommon, but for somebody to have access to a pension where it is a guaranteed thing, a guaranteed payout, so you have this guaranteed option. And then also if they start adding where you can also do 401k plans. And I had several clients that had this, they've been working for a company for like 20, 30 years, had this amazing pension. On top of that, they had the 401k. Now the pension that was just part of the job. Like that was a benefit. The 401k was also a benefit, but that wasn't free money, right? You had to put your own money in, whereas the pension, the employer was taking care of that. So it looks like this person has both of that. That is a good thing. He says, I haven't saved as much in my 401k as I would have liked. It's just over 100k right now, but my pension should have more, I think is what I'm trying to say, than enough to take care, more than enough to take care of my wife and I, provided we don't go broke on another kitchen remodel. Haha, I can relate to that. I'm almost 60 and I have the option to roll my pension over into an IRA. Several of my coworkers have done this, but I'm not 100% confident that's the best decision for me. I'm not comfortable choosing stocks and mutual funds, so I would have to find a professional to help me out. I'm glad that you realize that. What's the wealth hacker think about this one? Should I roll my pension to an IRA or leave as is? And this is coming from Jared. Awesome, Jared. Dude, this is a very, very good question, and one that I have helped several clients take care of over the years. So let me go back and just read this question one more time to make sure. So you have your 401k, haven't saved much, have 100k, that's great. You have the pension, some of your coworkers are rolling over, but you're not 100% confident. Okay, this is really good. So a lot of people don't know this, but if you have a pension, and once you reach the age of 59 and a half or 60, you have the ability, you have the option, if you want, to roll that over into an IRA. Now, does that make sense? Well, we'll get to that, but that is an option. And in fact, as Jared was talking about, I had several clients that worked for this company that offered a pension, and they also had the IRA, and many of them they had concern to leave their pension with the employer because the question comes up, like, what happens if the company goes bankrupt? Like, what happens if they no longer exist? Like, do I have any insurance? Now, there is some protection on your pension. And if you're curious what that protection is, there's actually a company called the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation. And this basically is an insurance for your pension. I believe you could also go here and find out what is the financial strength of your company? But the benefit here, what they guaranteed, and I'll see if I can actually find the tab here. How can I find out my pension plan is insured? So one thing you got to find out, is it insured by the PBGC? And then you also find out what is the maximum benefit. So here, as it says, for this is 2019 numbers, but to kind of give you a range, for 2019, the maximum guaranteed amount is $5,607 per month, or $67,295 per year. So if you have a pension that is, say, like $500,000, it may not be guaranteed for that full amount. So there is some protection, but once again, this is only provided that your company is insured by the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. It may not be. So you can go to this website, you can enter your company in and find out. So there is some potential concern, and that was probably the main reason why a lot of my clients had some concern. Now, the other reason that people would want to pull money out of the pension into the IRA is control. Control, flexibility, more options. Once you start taking the money out of your pension, this is called an annuity, where you are annuitizing your pension. So when you start taking this money, the process has started, like you cannot stop it. Like once you start it, you cannot stop. Now that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but once you start taking money, like I said, like that process can't be reversed. Whereas if you were to roll that pension amount into the IRA, well, now you've got all this money sitting in the IRA, and then you can start taking out a monthly income stream. Now, how much you take out is completely on you and your hopefully financial professional is going to work with you to determine how much you could be taking out. But that is the attraction here, because you have flexibility, more options. And what I always told people, one big reason why you'd want to do this is that if you have a pension and you roll it to the IRA, and if you don't roll it to the IRA, and let's say like something comes up where you need a lump sum, like you need $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. If that's in the pension, you don't have access to it. Like you can't go to your pension and say, hey, can I get a $20,000 check, please? Like they're going to say, nope, sorry, thanks for asking. Appreciate you asking, but no, that isn't even a thing. Whereas if you're in the IRA, yes, you can do that. Now, in that whole options and flexibility, there also is that risk that you take out too much. And oftentimes I've seen people where, like we come up with this strategy, we come up with this plan. We're only going to take so much out per month out of the IRA after we roll our pension over. And we have this plan. And all of a sudden I start getting calls like, hey, I want to take $10,000 out for this kitchen remodel, or I want to take my family on a vacation, or I want to buy a new car, or whatever the case may be. Now, all of a sudden you might be drawing down a lot faster than expected, and you might eventually run out of money. Whereas if you keep it in the pension, that's not going to happen. Now, the other thing quickly, and if you don't know this, with most pensions, you also have different payout options. So for example, you could do a one life annuity, like guarantee basically on your life. You can do a joint annuity where it's based off of you and your spouse. So what that would look like is if you started, let's say you chose the joint option. If you started taking out money, it's like 5 years goes by, something happens to you and your spouse is still living, well, then it will continue on for the rest of their life. Now, after they pass away, it's done. So that means if you had, let's say in theory, $500,000 sitting in this pension, and that benefit is say $5,000 a month, and let's say you take it out for a year, so that's $60,000, right? And then you pass away. And then your spouse lives for another year, so they take out $60,000. So now you've taken out a total of $120,000. Let's say that they pass away. Anything that's left over isn't going to your kids or your grandkids or any charity of your choosing. That's all going back into the pool, the pension pool, to help other people out that are paying, getting payouts on their pension. Now, if you end up living for another 20 years, so you're taking out $60,000 every single year for 20 years, then it ends up being in your favor. Now, it's hard to say which one, like how do you choose, right? Well, this is all based off your health. Knowing your family history, knowing how you eat, how you exercise, how you're taking care of yourself. I mean, these should be questions that you should be able to answer honestly to see what's going to make the most sense. Now, Jared didn't ask this, so I'm assuming that he already knows, but I don't want to assume that you know. But I have a lot of people that are interested in maybe rolling that pension over, and they have this big concern about taxes. Like, are they going to have to pay some huge tax liability by rolling over their pension into an IRA? And going from the pension into the IRA, it's almost, it is identical of rolling over your 401k into an IRA, meaning that it is not a taxable event. So there is no tax that you have to pay when you do the rollover. It's not until you start taking money out of the IRA that you start paying your income tax. And how much tax you pay, it depends on how much you make. So this is basically going to be treated as what we would call ordinary income, which is just basically like your wages, like how much you're making from your job. So if you're still working, and you can still do this as well, if you're still working, you can roll your pension over into the IRA, and then basically you just start a new pension that your company is going to add money into. But once you roll that over, if you start taking money out of the IRA and you're still working, so let's say that you're making $80,000 a year and you're taking out $10,000 from the IRA, well, that $80,000 plus $10,000, that basically to the IRS, you just made $90,000 for the year. So wherever you would fall on the tax bracket for the year is how much tax that you would pay. So that's how you calculate taxes on any money that's taken out of the IRA. So you would like to structure this as best when you're not working, so that the only income that you have coming in is from your IRA. So that way you're only paying taxes on that amount versus making money from your 9 to 5 and then adding that on top of it, you're just paying that much more tax. So trying to minimize how much tax you pay on all your money is always going to be your priority. Now, I want to go back to Jared's question, the second part of his question, when he says, I'm not comfortable choosing stocks and mutual funds, so I would have to find a professional to help me out. And I really love that you know this about yourself. I come across a lot of people that just have a lot of almost reckless arrogance in that they can build their own portfolio. And with all the tools I even talk about here on the podcast, on the channel, on the blog, like the M1 Finance and Betterment, like there are definitely a lot of amazing platforms that exist out there that will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But there's something about taking your entire life savings that you have worked decades to accumulate to get to this point where you have the most money you've ever had in your entire life. And then you turn that over to a robo advisor. I would have some concern. I mean, and I get this stuff. I've been doing this stuff, but there's a lot of fear about that, right? Because what if you make the wrong decision? What if you check the wrong box or select the wrong fill-in bubble, whatever you're choosing investment portfolios? Like, is that a reality? Probably not, but still, you don't want to put $1 million in, from your pension into a robo-advisor IRA and then wake up the next day or next week and realize, oh crap, $1 million just turned to $750,000. What in the world did I do? And I'm sure it has happened. Chances are it probably won't happen, but it definitely could if you don't know what you're doing. So Jared, the fact that you realize that about yourself and you recognize that and you do need to hire a financial professional, I think that's great. I think that's awesome. Now, if you don't know where to go, I would start with asking your coworkers, and who did they go with? Who did they choose? Why did they choose them? Also ask, about the investment strategy that their financial advisor is having them do. And here's probably my favorite question. You could ask them if they're a fiduciary. Most people, I don't think, would think to ask that, or if they did ask that, they wouldn't even understand the answer. But I would ask them, how much do they charge, or what are the fees associated with working with this financial advisor? And if they can answer that question and answer it easily, clearly and concisely, then I'd have a good amount of faith in this advisor that they're being very open and transparent about what they do, how they do it, and most importantly, how they get paid. Because I've seen it time and time again where you're working with somebody and they just kind of throw a bunch of numbers out at you and you don't fully understand what you're paying for. And you want to know what you're paying for, because you might think like, oh, I don't think there's any fees. Like, oh no, there's fees. There's definitely fees. And a good advisor is going to make sure that this client, this potential client, this new client, all their clients know exactly how much they are paying for their services. So that's one place that I would start. And if that doesn't give you the answer that you need, you could also go to CFP.net. This has a database of all of the certified financial planners that exist in the world. This is something that I am on here, but you're not going to find me because I'm currently not accepting new clients, but I still have my CFP designation. But you can type in your zip code, type in the type of services that you want. If you actually even know the advisor's name, you can enter it here as well. And you can find, they'll give you, depending on where you live, I think when I typed it in my zip code, there was like 25 to 30 CFPs that were close by. So that at least gives you a starting point where, you know, these are all advisors that are committed to the financial planning process. I can't speak enough about this designation. You know, I went through this. I know how much extra work and time that it takes to get your CFP designation or license or whatever you want to call it. So I respect the fact that they are willing to do that. And you can be rest assured knowing that this person is committed to the financial planning process because they went through all of the work to get this designation. So once again, that is CFP.net, or it's also letsmakeaplan.org is the other domain that you can go to, which is basically the same thing, CFP.net or letsmakeaplan.org. And that's where you can go and find a financial advisor. All right, Jed, I really appreciate you asking this question regarding your pension. I hope I've given you enough information to at least go to that next step. I think at the end of the day, it's really knowing yourself. And if you don't trust yourself that if you were to roll over your pension into an IRA, and if you're going to take all that money out and blow it on who knows what, like if you know yourself, then leaving it in the pension, getting that guaranteed income could make sense. Now, if you want more control and you're confident in your financial professional that you're working with, that you can structure a monthly retirement income plan that gives you enough to live the life that you want. And then also whatever you don't use gets to go to your kids or your grandkids. Like that's a good thing. And that's why a majority of people will choose to do the rollover, because of that control and also for generational wealth. All right, y'all, if you have a question like Jared, once again, you can go to goodfinancialsense.com/ask, and you can ask any question that you want. I might not answer every question that you ask, but you can at least go there and submit a question. Once again, that's goodfinancialsense.com/ask. As always, this is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Until next time, peace.